Welcome to the Enterprise Excellence Podcast, where our purpose is to help create a better future. Learn from our world's experts how to improve your organisation sustainably. Learn how to achieve and sustain an excellence journey for yourself, others, and the planet.
And I'm your host, Brad Jevons, coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. We are proudly brought to you in association with SA Partners, a world-leading business transformation consultancy. SA Partners are a truly purposeful company focused on helping organisations achieve sustainable improvement for themselves, others, and the planet. Welcome to episode 88 of the Enterprise Excellence Podcast. I'm so pleased to welcome back a mentor of mine and a good friend, Mr. Dirk Crouse. We spoke in the last episode about Hoshin Kanri and the planning that every member of an organisation is involved in. Today we chat more about adaption, controlled experimentation and innovation, going to Gemba, and building an embedded culture of continuous improvement. It takes years. Dirk, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Nice to be with you.
Yeah. Dirk, with I got taught at university about Michael Porter's work and competitive advantage and the criticality of that, and you get taught how to put together a wonderful plan. And it's like at university, I was taught how to do all the stuff at the top, but I wasn't taught anything about the power of connecting the front line. Why is that, mate? Why is that?
Well, I think it's probably the way that anything, science or management evolves academically. There's some good thinking and good principles there, but as knowledge increases or experience increases, knowledge increases, and therefore people adapt. I mean, the Japanese adapted after the shock of the Second World War. For them, their country was completely devastated. The two biggest impacts for them has probably come from people like Edward Deming and what was the other guy's name?
Rucker?
Yeah, so there were a few. And the point is these were guys, Americans, who had the knowledge but had not yet put this into practice.
Yeah.
And they found, obviously, in Japan, a burning platform, people really wanting to get out of the deep, and willing to learn and to experiment. And that's still the aim in Lean, is to continually experiment, allow people to do things in an organized fashion, innovation through controlled testing, trials, experimenting, and learn from it. And the important thing, for instance, that the Japanese taught us is they would always ask the question, often ask the question, what failure have you experienced? Especially on the floor. And in the beginning, people wouldn't want to share that. But the next question then was, so what can we learn from that? Not what can you learn, what can we learn from? And that was so powerful, because then it puts people on the road of learning from it and making the next step. Very similar to and that's why it's actually called the scientific method. Learn from the mistakes, and that gives you the knowledge to make the next step.
Yeah. I guess with the mistakes too, you've got that element of emotion, an element of burning platform that it puts you in a place of adaptation, doesn't it?
That's right.
Dirk, I know especially within Australia, we sort of rode through the GFC okay, didn't we? So we've had like 20, 30 years of just upward progression. And it's in the 20, 30 years that these models have really become prevalent within Australia anyway, and probably around the West, really. Maybe it is that we haven't had a burning platform enough to really make a lot of our organizations adapt rapidly to need to do this. Or I don't know, what's your thoughts? Why Why is it not taking off more solidly here, or is that a challenge around the world?
I think that is true around the world, but I think Australia maybe more so. And as you say, I think for exactly the reason that you quoted there. I think also that it's perhaps very difficult for exec level to understand their role in this kind of a culture. And that is something that they need coaching on.
Even boards, Dirk, even boards, I think. Like it's...
Yep, even boards. But I think the main thing is that they find themselves unequipped and unsure as to how they would proceed. And so the typical process is they hear about lean, they agree with it, the concept, they like the concept of continuous improvement, all of that. They can see that it can bring in cost savings, improvement in quality, all those things. Unfortunately, that should not be the focus, because what you need to focus on is how to make it a competitive advantage by making it permanent. Because some of the first things that I often hear from heads in companies, what happens when you run out of your low-hanging fruit? Well, that's just unfortunate that I think industry is often have the concept that continuous improvement is more the project style approach done by a few, whereas the lean approach is the opposite. And that's often where the misunderstanding comes from. If you can get everybody, including the sweeper on the floor, to start making improvements in his daily job, that you never run out of ideas. If you look at the Toyotas and Bridgestones, 70 years in the case of Toyota, 60 in the case of Bridgestone, and I don't know, Panasonic is probably close behind. They've done this for decades, and they're still not running out of ideas.
I know, Dirk.
Because
yeah,
this is always a better way. You know, it's the same way that science develops. You don't just make an improvement and then it's done and sealed forever. No, it keeps developing.
Yeah. And Dirk, those companies you just mentioned, they're the quiet achievers in our worlds. Like when you look at what Panasonic is behind right now, like they're not out there on ads all over the place, and but the advancements in batteries and everything that they are behind right now in our world is off the charts.
Correct. Yeah.
And people don't know it, but the reason they are is because they're such a company at excellence, like the quality of what they make and the price they can make it for is just off the charts. But they're able to then help evolve our world into where we need to go for the future of our planet and everything, but do it in a very quiet, humble way. It's amazing.
It's interesting. I can say the same about Bridgestone. It was interesting, after they got the Deming Prize in '64, they were threatened by the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers that they have to publish this so that this can be shared. Now, Bridgestone was so insular, and I must say, as a company still today, that they had to be forced to put it in a publication, and they only made a very limited publication of this book on Hoshin. They're quiet. They're not out there to brag about it. They tend to just do it.
Yeah. So Dirk, this conversation, it's been amazing. I can really see that the secret is, if we want to achieve greatness in an organization, we need to help senior leaders get coached and become the guns, and then help them coach and develop others. And part of that is Hoshin Kanri. How do we go about that? And do you have an example where we've had some success in the West with that?
Yeah, there are several companies in the West. Danaher in the US is one. I would think. Look, there are several different sizes. Art Bain was another one that initially with YMOL did tremendous work, but then managed to get a number of companies and larger companies in the same way. It is just crucial to observe all of those successes came when it was driven by the top.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, doesn't it? And like you said, they've all come from the top.
Yeah, it comes from the top. So how to go about it is obviously us as practitioners need to be equipped on how to engage them and clarify their role. Because if their expectation is that we will just be doing some projects, we'll make some cost savings, improve the quality, and leave them alone, kind of thing.
Yeah. Or form a agile or lean practice, and it's their job to do it.
That's right. It's not a task that can be delegated. Number one, they have to realize that it's a culture, and even things like organizational changes could completely upset the cart in the earlier phases thereof, maybe even permanently, because even Toyota had some issues at some stages with different directions, although they were all very well versed in TPS. They nevertheless had some rethink to do at certain stages due to some organizational changes. So I think all of that you need to preserve. If you want to establish a new culture, you need to get the guys at the top to do it, but they also need to be accountable to preserve that.
Yeah.
So the katas that we do through Hoshin, or tools like Hoshin, and also Gemba coaching, very powerful for that. The key, however, is to get the C-suite level to understand their role and to clarify their role. Their role are not necessarily to be the expert on anything. That's why they will have the continuous improvement or lean office that continually experiment and manage a lot of that. But they need to understand the underlying principles and concepts to be able to drive the culture.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, Dirk, and things like Hoshin Kanri, they need to be very skilled at that because...
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I would say the two tools that they absolutely need, they need the basic philosophies of like respect for people, which is another gap that I normally see. Respect for people. And then also the tools being Hoshin and Gemba coaching. Now, Gemba coaching is not about putting accountability down on the floor. It's neither for the CEO to walk away with a list of things that he's going to fix. No, it is about getting people to be challenged in a respectful way. I think Fuji Cho, ex-chairman from Toyota, stated it very well. He says, go see, understand by asking questions, and then show respect. So it's not to say, why did this happen? How are you going to fix this? It is challenging people on what can we do about this? And not walk away there, I'll go and fix this and I'll go and talk to so-and-so. That is not, you can do that, but that's not the purpose.
Yeah.
And I think in many cases, that's what I have experienced, that some exec believe that that's what they need to do and they don't want to do it. They are already too busy.
Yeah.
People down on the floor need to do their job,
you
know? And that part is right. They need to do the job, but they need to be nudged in the right way without being prescriptive, being challenged. Show them the respect that you believe that they are capable of coming up with the solutions. You don't have to go and problem solve it for them. You don't have to come up with the solutions. You don't even have to go and organize things, except where it is organizational, which is where the exec needs to step in and realize that cannot be done at any other level than theirs.
Yeah. When I was first involved in deploying enterprise excellence, I gained so much from being able to connect with global experts like Chris Butterworth, Alex Teo, and Peter Hines. They shared their knowledge but also inspired me to keep moving forward. We can now offer this same opportunity to many of our listeners. We are currently forming the Enterprise Excellence Community. This community is for people practically deploying an excellence journey within their organisation or for those highly involved in it. The community allows us to link you directly with our world's experts to learn each month for an hour. We already have Dr. Jeff Sutherland, Jeff Leiker, Pascal Dennis, Laurent Simon, Dr. Morgan Jones and Lewis Trigger confirmed for the coming months. After the hour session with a global expert, we then break into small groups with our peers to help each other overcome challenges and continue to move towards our organisation's vision of excellence and goals. To get involved or gain more information, reach out for our website, enterpriseexcellencepodcast.com/contact. We look forward to talking to you soon and working together to create a better future. So the key systems then, Dirk, is, they need to be really skilled at Hoshin Kanri, really skilled at Gemba or leading from the front, and I guess the right behaviors around that. But can I ask one more question, Dirk? Would you say with doing Gemba, do they have to really know their operating and cultural system deeply too? When they do go to Gemba, they need to know it intimately, or what's your thoughts with that?
So it is a learning process. That's why they go down to the floor. It's about learning and understanding their own processes better. Now, often, and it's interesting, even at lower levels, you can fall into the trap. You've been there, but a few years ago, and then you move up, and then you think you know that level. Then you move up again. You think, well, you now know it all, but things have changed, and you're not realizing that. And so, the only reality is the current reality, not last year's, not 5 years ago, maybe not even last week's. Yeah. And so the purpose of going down there is really there's a lot. There's a whole list of main reasons, but I think the purpose really is to go, see, and learn, to understand, and then show respect by challenging the people. That's basically the key. So yes, absolutely, it's about process, understanding and knowing the process, understanding where the roadblocks are, and in a very subtle way, focus resources. And it is amazing to see when this is being done, being introduced to a company for the first time, and to later year people say, oh, so and so came down and spoke to me about this issue, and he said, we guys can solve it. And they actually brag at Tiru. And he's coming back in 2 weeks. He wants to find out what we've done. And just the lift that it does, the showing of respect. That's how people develop. And by being challenged in the right professional way. Yeah.
So, Dirk, it really sounds like a key role of change agents and people like ourselves and yourself with what you're doing going forward is being able to engage the senior executive, help them become really skilled at Hoshin Kanri, help them become really skilled at Gemba, and learning constantly as they do that, and keeping abreast but empowering as they do it also.
Correct.
But then the other question I got, Dirk, with it is the power of that is there's very little resource needed from an external point of view to help that happen, because it's not like you're having to instantly go into the whole organization. You're starting with a handful of people to help skill up and build capability. But you mentioned, Dirk, before they're busy, like these people are already busy. What do you typically find they're busy doing, and we need the shift to help them become more focused on these other cultural and strategic systems?
Not sure you should get me started on that. That's a very long time. Unfortunately, lot of good work, but done in lots of meetings. So I think before all of that, before you start helping them to see where time is wasted, is really to get some role clarity for the senior exec. Look, the finance director will have a completely different role to play than the quality director or the ops director or whatever. So you need to clarify their role for them first. And that brings a lot more focus to their daily work. And of course, they will all come up with the explanation, look, I'm just too busy, I can't do this. And that's the opportunity for the sensei or the consultant to go in and show them where time can be, I don't want to say shaved off, but spent a lot more efficiently.
I think you named a big one there in the meetings. I've seen executives shift and basically save a whole head count out of their executive team in meetings. It's big.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So we've in one of my companies, in the companies that I work for, on one site, the whole site was plagued with massive meetings. So I put a challenge to them, and I worked them through a model that I have on meetings. So a lot of it is best practices from various other sources, combined with what the Japanese are doing. And we managed in the first year to reduce our total meeting time by 50%.
Wow, that's some time saved.
And when we did that, I then challenged, well, now I remember the first time around, the guys were not even believing that we would ever be able to achieve that. But we did. So I then challenged them a second time. Can we next year cut another 50%? And there was hesitancy, but the first time people said, yes, we've done it, we can do it again. And we did it again.
Yeah, nice.
So it is possible. It does take some work to get there, and education. But, basic things. So many things are being read in meetings or discussions that people have not prepared for.
Yeah, or no strategic focus and no measures or anything.
Yeah, so
based around.
Let's say you have got a good agenda and you have clarified what the purposes of any item is. Does everyone need to be in on that part of the discussion? Is one. Secondly, what is the purpose of it? Is it for a decision? Is it for communication? Is it for debate? Are we going to allow just brainstorming, or are we just going to talk to the facts, or are people going to divert from the agenda item itself? Those things need to be clarified up front. And, providing the pre-reading, a good structure. If you do that, you can actually almost immediately after the meeting put out the minutes.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And we become so habitual with the meetings we've got and the way they run, with no structure and just a rabbit warren of conversations. But the time is crazy.
Exactly.
Yep.
So one key aspect there too is for the most senior person that's invited to a meeting to check who else of his team had been invited. And then say, well, if he's there, I don't have to be there. Or if I need to be there, then maybe 2 or 3 of the other guys don't have to be there. And allow people to opt out of meetings. I mean, I think the culture gets established once you're invited, It's a sin to not attend. And in fact, it should actually be the other way around.
Yeah.
If it's communication, or if it's clear as to the purpose of that agenda point, you know exactly why you're there, and you don't have to sit and listen to stuff that is not part of your ambit, actually.
Yeah, too true.
Yeah.
There's a technique I learned from Agile and Jeff Sutherland, which has built one of the foundations is Lean, the Toyota production systems and everything out of those Japanese companies. But he mentioned that, you start at the front with meetings, and then as you go up, it's about who's interdependent on each other to execute based on the front line. And that's who should be in meetings. If there's no interdependency to help the front line, why be there? And I thought that word interdependencies, who's actually interdependent of each other here and needs to meet to support that frontline execution. I love that. That was a real insight for me.
Yeah, and of course, distilling as to the purpose, again, plays a crucial role there. And if it's not communicated up front in the agenda or the agenda documents that come out, how can you make that call when you get an invite?
Yeah, you can't. Well, Dirk, I think we've solved a lot of the world's problems here in some regards from organizations today. It's amazing, that we've really honed on that piece that the senior leadership play. We've honed on a piece of exactly how we can save time for them to play that, because I think most senior leadership teams will be struggling with what we just spoke about. That'd be like the top of the Pareto chart on time waste. And then we've also spoken about the key aspects of being skilled at Hoshin Kanri, skilled at Gemba, and then, learning constantly about the operating system and the cultural system as you go forward. It's really, really cool. Dirk, what would be a 2-minute tip you would give to, an improvement change agent, an organization, or a leader around this topic we're talking on?
I would say that the first thing we should realize is that without the C-suite, we won't change a culture. You can impact it, but whether you can change it, no. So if you really want success and lasting success, that's the first port of call. I know many of us have had the experience that once you get to a company, the expectation is to be to just get this done. And maybe you've already inherited a system. What I'm saying, best starting point is to start right at the top. If you cannot get through there, you may as well not start at all.
Yeah, go find the next challenge.
Yeah, go for the next challenge, because that's where you'll get success, and that's where you will leave a lasting legacy for the company and a competitive advantage. Because once a company is on that roll, it becomes very hard to stop. It takes some time, though. It is not something that's done in 2 or 3 years. And the longer it can run, the better, the more ingrained it becomes. That's the whole purpose of the whole PATA system, to get the routine going and people to have the discipline, develop the discipline. Because once they apply the discipline and see the results, it becomes very hard to turn around.
Yeah. It's become part of the culture. And it links back to so many other studies that is just going through my mind, from other avenues. Dirk, what's been a recent insight for you? What's been something that you've learned recently?
Oh, never stop. I retired recently, but I made myself the promise. I'm not going to completely stop. I wanted to still be active in a meaningful way, passionate about this work. It's something I enjoy incredibly much. Maybe not in full-time employ. So yes, I would like to still be engaged, and so as a personal thing that I've learned recently is that that's very important. Also, from a health point of view, I had advice from several people in my career that said, if you stop, it becomes very hard to continue, and you get some kind of a brain freeze, and I don't want that to ever happen.
No, that sounds like a good advice. And Dirk, you're now out and freelancing and supporting organizations now. How can people reach out to you? Like, I'm sure there's going to be listeners that hear this topic and think, wow, okay, I really want to help my organization. What territory or region are you focused in, or is it global? And how can people reach out to you if they want to connect and get some deeper help?
Okay, maybe the easiest is LinkedIn or my website, which is leansensei.com.au. My reach at this stage, and I've always been, it actually started when I immigrated to New Zealand, a decade and a half ago, that I still had contact with companies abroad that I assisted with on a freelance basis. And so I'm very excited about the technology advantages that we have today. So I'm available in all formats of the game,
Nice.
whether face-to-face or online or virtual, planning to do some webinars in the future. So there are many opportunities, but the easiest way to contact is either through LinkedIn or my website.
leansensei.com.au. Dirk, well, thank you so much, mate. Like, from the first time I met you in Mentone, Victoria, I think it was an amazing conversation, and this has been an exceptional one. And thanks for everything you have done, mate, and what you will continue to do to help us create a better future, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the interview.
Cheers, Dirk. Bye for now.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
What a great episode. There were two key takeaways for me from this episode. The first of all was the importance of the C-suite, and if you can really get these senior executives involved on a journey. Of course, as Dirk mentioned, culture change and the sustaining of that comes a lot from leadership and leadership shadow. Without the C-suite involved, it can be really difficult to ensure a sustainable excellence journey into the future. The second key takeaway for me was just a whole conversation on Hoshin Kanri and the power of this approach of strategic planning and deployment and then execution at all levels throughout the organisation. What a great episode. Thanks so much for your time, knowledge. Dirk, we really appreciate you helping us create a better future. Bye for now.